Do you fill out a bracket, Ian?
I didn't do a bracket, but I did do one of those, not obviously for money, but I did do one of those pools with my high school buddies where you do kind of a snake draft and you pick 8 teams and all that. So I'll be watching.
How much money's at stake there? Oh, that's right. You said there's no money. Of course you don't.
We play for that's against the rules.
Of course it is.
We play for pride.
You can see the NFL Network's NFL free agency frenzy at 10 a.m. Eastern. All right, clue us in on the biggest move so far was made by who?
I would say, obviously, the biggest money is Kirk Cousins. We know that's going to happen later today, and it's a big move. Quarterback is incredibly important. To me, though, I would say the Giants made the biggest move
with Nate Solder.
Nate Solder. It's not a skill guy. Well, let me say this. I would say two of them. I would say the Giants and the Chiefs. The Chiefs signing Sammy Watkins for it's a lot of money, $16 million a year, but a big time playmaker downfield for Patrick Mahomes. That is offense is going to be explosive. I think that's one. But then the Giants getting Solder. It's not a skill guy. It's just a tackle, but second most important position on the field. Making sure Eli doesn't get sacked a million times and running for his life like he was last year. Swiping one from the Patriots and the Texans. That was a huge move for Pat Shurmur and the Giants.
Who did better at the quarterbacking position this past week, the Browns or the Bills?
I would say probably that's really tough because I think the Browns did fine. They got themselves an absolutely viable, good, decent starter who is 500. That's what his record is. Tyrod Taylor gave up a lot, first pick in the third round. But for the Bills, that story hasn't been written. AJ McCarron's probably going to be the starter there. But them trading Cordy Glenn, who played decent for them last year but has been battling foot injuries, them trading Cordy Glenn and moving up 9 spots in the draft to put themselves in position to take a quarterback and move up again in the draft was like the underrated and most fascinating move of the whole week. Because they signed AJ last night for 2 years, $10 million, which is nice. I don't know what he is, but there definitely are smart football people who think he's going to be a legitimate, pretty good starter in the NFL. But the Bills moving up in the draft was really clever, following the model of the Eagles from a couple years back. That was a cool move.
But if you're looking at the number of teams who are still going to draft quarterbacks, Buffalo gets McCarron, Denver gets Case Keenum, Cleveland has got Tyrod Taylor. Are all three drafting quarterbacks?
And then I would add the Jets, too. I'm not 100% sure they're drafting quarterbacks. They are absolutely in position to do that. I would say my guess right now, let's assume that all these quarterbacks are ranked as we think, right? Let's assume they're all ranked in the top 5 or top 10. I would say the Browns probably take one in either 1 or 4. I would say the Broncos probably take one at 5. I would say the Jets, I'll go 50-50 on whether they take one. The Giants, I don't know. It looks, everyone sort of thinks they're going to take one, but it would be so Dave Gettleman to take like a guard at 2, the best guard prospect we've seen in 10 years. So
Nelson,
we'll see.
Yeah. We got Baker Mayfield coming up next hour. How did his pro day go?
Sounded like it went well. The reviews were good. And look, he's a good football player. I don't think anyone cares about like him running around in shorts. It was more about what he was like, how he interacted. All the reviews I got were positive. It was like, it kind of went like we thought. I think what's interesting about Baker Mayfield is, I feel bad for him a little bit because he's always going to get the Manziel questions because he's a little kind of fiery dude who runs around and wins a ton and has crazy stats and, had the arrest and obviously so there's some stuff there. It seems like he likes to play football a lot more than Manziel did. I loved watching him at and scouts and GMs did too, watching him at the Senior Bowl, run around, full of energy. He was getting everyone kind of going, watching how fast he goes about his business and kind of the way he does it was really instructive just about like what kind of a football player he's going to be. I think from the people I've spoken with, the impression he's made so far has been really, really good.
What do you make of Gronk's tweet for Danny Amendola, who left to go to the Dolphins, where he emphasized in capital letters, happy and free? What, cryptic,
Yeah,
but is there something there?
I saw that. It's not nothing. I mean, I'm not going to pretend it's like, oh, it's ridiculous. You know, it's just a social media. Like, people send messages on social media now, so it's a thing. It was a hard year in New England. There was a lot of tension. It was, and I think everyone felt it, from Tom Brady to Gronk to Danny Amendola, and all of that. I mean, it was a difficult year. You know, Bill Belichick is the best coach in the history of sports, I think, or at least getting there. And it's hard. I mean, it's not always the easiest experience. And I would say there certainly are people who want to go out and be freer and be themselves and be in a different environment. I would also say that Danny Amendola leaving was not about him wanting to be free. It was about him getting offered more money. He got a really, really nice contract from the Dolphins that, you know, is going to pay him more than the Patriots would have paid him. Remember, he came back to the Patriots for like 3 years in a row taking pay cuts. Mm-hmm. So I think this was his first and last opportunity to really get paid.
Jimmy Graham, in Green Bay, Jordy Nelson is out. How big of a surprise was that, and where's he land?
You know, for me, not really a surprise on Jordy Nelson. He's a 33-year-old receiver who was making $10 million against the cap. So I would, you know, to me, those guys are always in jeopardy. And, you know, it's the same thing. Like, let's say he's still in Oakland right now. Visit went really well. He hasn't left yet, so that's a really good sign as far as maybe they end up signing him. But then it's like, bring him and his salary in. Maybe that means Michael Crabtree needs to go. So I think it's always sort of that. You take one big salary, you replace it with another. As far as Jimmy Graham, I'm still mind blown a little bit by the Packers spending money in free agency and going out and they made a trade this year.
They never
do
that.
Demarius Randall for a backup. They made a trade. They like a real trade with players and everything.
I know.
And picks. Players and picks were both involved. This is a new Packers, and I'm stunned by that. I am also going to be really interested if they get it right at the tight end position this year, which obviously they didn't last year. Aaron Rodgers really needs that.
And Ndamukong Suh gets released, and I saw a couple of teams. Seattle is one of those teams for him. Where does he end up?
Yeah, I think Seattle's probably a team. I would think are definitely a team. They've been looking for defensive tackle help. It's really just a matter of like how much money is he going to need to play? You know, he's made $120 million, so I'd say financially he's probably going to be okay. You know, is he willing to take $6 or $7 million a year, which is probably what, or $8 maybe, let's say $8, which is probably what those defensive tackles make now, or is he going to need 12? Because I'm not sure anyone's going to give him $12 million a year. That guys don't really want to pay for, you know, $10, $12, $14 million a year for defensive tackles who don't rush the passer and aren't Aaron Donald. That's a really hard thing to do.
I'll leave you with this. The fan base that should feel the best today is who?
That's a good one. I would say the Browns probably. Mainly because they always feel so sad. It's so sad there. And what they've done this offseason has been so interesting and clever. I mean, the Tyrod trade, like I knew they were in the mix, but I did not know until you get the quick text that it's happening. That was a good one. Jarvis Landry, you know, a premier, productive receiver. You know, they lose Joe Thomas, obviously, but they, you know, beefed up the tackle position. They got a number one running back. They're still doing work. They have a great front office and a ton of picks who now they know how to use them. I think the Browns should feel pretty good for once.
Have fun today, Ian. We appreciate your time.
I don't know about fun, but always enjoy being on with you. Thanks, guys.
That's Ian Rapoport, NFL Network insider. You can see him on the NFL Network's coverage of free agency starting at 10 a.m. Eastern.
For more Dan Patrick Show, tune to Audience Channel 239 on DirecTV or download the Dan Patrick Show app.